put at your disposal to work with us. Again, item 4 is a reminder on what is the governance, the methodology, and the main rules that we are applying for the maintenance of this specification, CPSV AP. And then we will go to the bulk of the discussion today. That is basically these two items, 5 and 6. We will discuss with you the main open issues that we received from you over the last few months. And there will be a specific and dedicated discussion, a bit shorter, on the recommended control vocabularies that we are using in the CPSV AP to get some feedback from you to help us to streamline what should be the next steps and the collaboration with other standardization bodies responsible for certain control vocabularies. And finally, and we appreciate very much the collaboration of the colleagues from Poland and Germany, we will have a knowledge sharing item. So we'll have Poland presenting how they are building a catalog, their plans building a national catalog of public services. Presentation will be given by my colleague, Christina. And from Germany is the same topic, and we'll have Volker Smith that will guide us through the German implementation of a federal catalog of services. In the last part, but not the least, we will have a question and answer final part where we can discuss other topics that were not addressed in the webinar shortly. Okay, so starting by some kind of background information on this project. Yeah, just a fresh reminder especially for the newcomers. This project is part of the interoperability program of the European Commission, and basically here we are supporting public administrations in Europe to catalog their public services using, let's say, more innovative approaches through semantic interoperability to describe in a machine-readable way and to catalog the existing public services at all administrative levels. Digital Catalogue of Services. The main goal here is not only to create these catalogs, it's also to facilitate, to ease the sharing, the exchange of information on public services between citizens, businesses as the end users, but also between public administrations across Europe. At the bottom of this slide, you can see in more detail the kind of technical aspects related to this piece of work that we are doing here. First of all, we are supporting member states to make service descriptions machine readable and fit for automated exchange at administrative levels to foster, for instance, digital portals as one-stop shops or single digital gateways, very much in the line of the aspiration of the new regulation. Exchange knowledge also. Here we try to foster a community where we can learn from each other and share best practices, worries, concerns, and together try to see how things can be solved. We are also looking at new technologies. Last year we have some reports on APIs, chatbots, and so on, and we provide this kind of advisory work to all of you to adopt open specifications and new technologies that could facilitate the access to information about public services by citizens and businesses. And also we provide testing and validation tools and services to help you to check your solutions that are compliant with the CPSV AP or to help doing the mapping. Yeah. So this is in a nutshell. And here we can see visually the type of clusters we are working on. So basically as tools at the top of the slide, we can see as major tools, we have a set of specifications, basically the CPSV AP plus the control vocabularies. We worked with some of you last year on an initial taxonomy to classify public services at EU level with different angles and perspectives. We started also some initial works with some of you on tailoring the CPSV AP to the business needs, especially of Article 10 of the Single Digital Gateway Regulation, the so-called SDG data model. And we have, on top of that, these control vocabularies I mentioned earlier on, that will be discussed in a specific item later on. We have also a set of tools supporting the automated exchange of public service information, harvester, an editor of public service descriptions for machine readable interactions, and we are also supporting piloting activities to test in the field with you all these activities, the creation of national catalogues, the mapping to common models, and so on. And finally, raising awareness activities is part also of the ISA² program mission, is to pass the message through on how interoperability is very important, and in this particular context, how a semantic interoperability should really deserve a very important space when designing new IT systems meant to exchange data automatically. So we have a set of raising awareness activities. We organize workshops, dedicated workshops. Actually, you will see later on that we will anticipate later on what are the next workshops, webinars, basically, that we will organize early next year. And studies and reports, as I mentioned earlier on, we produce sometimes these studies on innovative technologies. And for instance, last year we have this one on the use of APIs to facilitate, in conjunction with structured data models and vocabularies, what could be the benefits to implement more automated, seamless data exchange workflows in public administration. And also there was another one on how we can leverage from these data models to set up sound high quality, some best practices for interactive services towards citizens and businesses, like chatbots. In any case, we have a new handout where you can see more in detail this kind of supporting activities. Here you see the link. The slides will be shared with all of you in Join Up, and the minutes of the meeting along with the recording. Okay, this is in a nutshell, just kind of background information. And now just to break the ice, it's after lunchtime. Sometimes we need to cheer up. We will set up some polls asking you a few questions through Slido. So I give the floor to Florian, and you can just conduct these virtual polls with all the participants. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Miguel. Yeah, and so please connect to slido.com and use the number you see on the screen, so 21649. And from this number, we will launch 2 questions at this stage. After those 2 questions, don't close it, because we'll come back to with other questions later on during the webinar. And as Miguel mentioned, this is just a small appetizer for the rest of the webinar. Thanks. So yeah, please launch the first question, which actually is simply touching the core of this action. It's to get to know a bit more what is actually your usage of CPSV AP in your country. Yeah, please launch. Voilà. So by usage, we know there are different ways within each country for using CPSV AP, and we would simply like to know, okay, how do you use or reuse CPSV AP today? There is, of course, no wrong answer. I see already 25 plus answers. And quite a, yeah, let's say almost half the people answered already that the CPSV AP is actually their structured data model, or they are fully aligned with CPSV AP in a structured way. 42% no. Great, sounds good, very positive. And there is a second question. We can keep this one still open for a while, so don't hesitate if you haven't answered yet. But yeah, of course, there's also the second question, which is about, okay, if you are using CPSV AP in a certain way, directly or through customization, which version of CPSV AP are you using? There's, of course, still the option of not using CPSV AP. If you are not sure about the version, yeah, just pick one so that we still know that you are using CPSV AP. I see, Frederick, your comment that we had about 30% of the audience answering the first question. I haven't counted the number of participants right now, but I agree that definitely not everyone has answered, but it's still possible normally. So I see here, so approximately 11 people answered the latest version of CPSV AP, while 20% in aggregated numbers would go for a previous version, which is of course also okay. And 45% say they are not using CPSV AP. And if we go, Alex, to the previous poll, there we had 34 answers with, so approximately 40% using CPSV AP in a structured manner, and 20% as national models, and also almost 20% who are not using CPSV AP right now, but are planning to do so, which is also very interesting. And if you need support in this, don't hesitate to contact us. That's exactly why we are there as an action. Okay, very good. I propose to move on for now. Don't hesitate if you haven't answered yet to do so, and we'll come back to Slido later on with the question you already see on the screen, but that's a kind of a spoiler. Alex, should we move back to the action roadmap?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Also from my side, Michiel de Keizer speaking. So we would like to give you a small heads up before we go into the content of the model also, but there's some other topics on the agenda too, if you can see. But first of all, we would like to give you a small heads up on what is on our roadmap for the coming 6 months. As you may know, the action has an important focus on actually supporting member states and also other stakeholders within the Commission and some countries also in the European Economic Area, but of course, the strongest focus on the member states, actually realizing and helping to realize Catalogue of Services and increasing the interoperability to make it easier to exchange information about public services within and across borders. And as an action, we of course want to maximize our added value to these member states in the support to those member states, and other stakeholders of the action that could benefit from the work that we are doing. And therefore, actually, we took the initiative to also listen. We do that all the time, but now we have actually dedicated really a specific task to this in this phase, to listen to actually those stakeholders, to the member states, on what their actual needs are, and adapt to actually be able to adapt our support and actions to those needs. And what we have done is actually, and maybe you can move on to the next slides. We have actually conducted quite some meetings, bilateral meetings with member states representatives, to get a view on those needs that live, which are related to, of course, the work that Catalogue of Services is doing, related to the products and services that we're delivering. And based on this, we have captured quite some information. We have defined our action roadmap for the coming 6 months, which we briefly want to present to you. So exactly what did we do in the course of September, October? We've organized quite some meetings with quite some member states. And then, of course, you will understand that we didn't have the chance to talk to anyone here in this call or to any member states. But this is still open. It looks like it's ended in October. But of course, any member states, any person in this call having some specific needs or want to discuss with us on how we can support your member state or you as a stakeholder, and you'd like to see that addressed, feel free to reach out to us, and we can always plan something, or just let's say add it in the chat, or take the floor throughout this meeting. Maybe we won't have the room to do that, but at least reach out to us so we can still have a discussion. But we gathered quite some input, so we did quite some meetings, and besides things, so we started processing that as from end of October or mid-October until now. And besides the things that directly relate to the action, we also captured some things that came to the surface that were less related or less directly related to our action, but maybe to other actions that are run by the Commission, initiatives, divisions within the Commission. So that's one thing that has been consolidated and discussed with them. But of course, we also captured quite some input on specific needs, or less specific needs also, needs that exist in several member states, giving us a good view on actually what we will be doing and what we should be doing in order to maximally address those needs. And that's what we have been, let's say, defining in the course of November. And today we actually want to give you a quick heads up, quickly want to explain you a bit what is on our roadmap regarding this for the coming 6 months. So what are those actions? And my colleague Maxime will go into a little bit detail in a bit. Well, there's actually 5 work streams or work packages or tasks, whatever you want to call them, that more or less quite fit the traditional things that we've been doing in the past years as an action. Of course, the devil is in the details there, and there's quite some specific things maybe that we will be stress more on in the coming months than we used to do before. But what are those 5 streams? There is the work in supporting the member states, of course, that we have been doing since the beginning of the action, and we keep on putting a lot of focus on that. You can actually see this in task number 1 and 4. So where the difference is that 4 is more the technical support, and then 1 is more related to actually data modeling and data modeling lineage alignment. Sorry. So these are, of course, 2 things that we strongly do together with the member states. These are support activities, and we can help you in compliance and reuse with CPSV AP by assisting with mappings, reviewing data models created in the member states, but also the actual technical support for implementing this, for instance, as a database model, or in an API and an endpoint for exchanging data about public service, or by conducting pilots. So this is what is covered by support to the member states, task 1 and 4. Then there's also the work in maintaining the CPSV AP still, and applying the change management methodology to it, the process that applies to it, meaning logging issues, preparing proposed resolutions, organizing working group meetings like these to discuss about the changes that should be applied to the model, but also getting a view on where it's actually being used and learn from those experiences too. So that's what is covered by number 2. If you look at number 3, as you know, in the past years, past 2 to 3 years, we've been also gradually, let's say, working together more and more with the people driving the Single Digital Gateway initiative from DG Grow, and promoting the reuse of the CPSV AP within that initiative. And we will keep on doing that. And the actual work, more specifically, that we will be focusing on will probably be in translating the CPSV AP to a rich implementation model for the SDG and making sure that that implementation model is maximally aligned with CPSV AP. So that's something that we will keep on working on, and that's work that actually quite intensively started as from the last phase, so a year to a year and a half ago, but that will continue. And then the fifth one is about putting work and making sure that what we are offering as a service and the products that come out of the action, like the model, but also the pilots, the studies, the guidelines that we're creating, that this becomes as discoverable as possible, as understandable. There's information available about all those things in an understandable way, so you can find it, that you can know, can learn, can see what you can expect from us, actually, for what you can contact us as an action, and what you can actually expect from the support that we deliver. So this is in a nutshell what we captured as needs and how we summarize that in the priorities for the coming 6 months. I'm gonna give the floor to Maxime that can quickly run to some more details about this. So go ahead, Maxime.
Yeah, thank you, Michiel. So I'm mostly involved in the last months in capturing the needs of the member states and then translating these into concrete actions. So next to the actions Michiel showed in the previous slide, I now want to show them to you in a bit more detail, so you can also, so it becomes tangible and also for the public organizations to see if it can add value to your organization. So under the first, so through the actions one by one. So under the first action, which was the support on building a national data model, what we have done also so far is providing mapping templates, so we can support you in mapping activities to comply with the CPSV AP. And more broad, we can help you in analyzing or advising you in general in creating a national data model based on the CPSV AP. Then a more specific support under 1.3 is something we have been doing also in the past, is transforming data from different sources, so different regions, for example, in your country, to a central place where we just use where a common format is needed, and we can of course help in this transformation. Then moving over to the second action we identified, which is the maintenance of CPSV AP. So this is something we are tackling this webinar, which includes the resolving of the open semantic issues on GitHub and also issues we captured during the bilateral meetings. Secondly, we are going to represent our current methodology for reaching semantic agreements, and how this is applicable for the CPSV AP. And lastly, is also something Florian will tackle later on, is showing the different controlled vocabularies we are using, and also listening to you what is needed, and based on that we will publish recommendations. And of course you can also always after this webinar give feedback or ask questions about this. Then the third action, as Michiel said, is working further on the SDG data model. So as some of you may remember, we had the workshop in February where we discussed the SDG data model. So we'll work further from there to better for further modeling the data model, and together with your support and input, come to a good agreement. Moving over to the technical support for describing, editing, harvesting, validating public services data, which we will capture under Action 4, where we will start next. So it will be the beginning of next year with giving a demo about what all is possible and what we can offer to the member states on a technical level through a demo. So we will contact you shortly about that with the details. This will allow you to give a really concrete view on what we are doing. And afterwards, we will provide technical support if required. The technical support can be very broad. So within our, it really depends on what the member state is asking, if it's feasible for the Catalogue of Services Action. Then lastly, under Action 5, we have the improving of the documentation, which we have started since October. And therefore, I will give the floor to my colleague, Alexandre, who will address this further.
Thank you, Maxime.
Alexandre, if I may, just to wrap up this information we have given to all the participants. We had these bilateral discussions with the technical national teams working hands-on the implementation of a catalog of services, also obligations coming from the Single Digital Gateway regulation. So first of all, thank you very much for your time. These interviews we conducted with all these technical teams have been a very fruitful discussion for us. We got very valuable input. We wanted to have this exercise to streamline the orientation and the supporting activities that we carry out in this project. And I think by listening to you and also your problems, your struggles, is helping us indeed to streamline and to plan ahead resources and supporting activities and to find synergies with the activities and the ongoing work that you are carrying out at home. So in a way, it's been a very interesting discussion. The discussions, for those that didn't participate, were very well structured across topics. And in any case, as a result of this discussion, we are now in a better position to cluster the topics of the supporting activities and different things that we are doing in this project, and to tailor much better next steps and next activities to support all of you. So thank you, all of you. And in any case, any question, you can always come back to us offline and so on. If somebody believes that we need to contact, as Roland said, we need to contact you also to see how we can support you, please don't hesitate. We have still coming weeks to complete these activities. Okay.
Thank you, Miguel. So before jumping on the governance aspects, we'll briefly talk about the existing resource that are available to you. We'll go really brief into this topic because, as probably you are already familiar with these tools. So basically, here you go. Basically, there are two main tools that are available for you, JoinUp and GitHub. These tools actually have different purpose. On the one hand, we have the JoinUp platform, which is really tackling the business aspect of the Catalogue of Service Actions. On this platform, you will be able to find information on the tools, solutions, the support activities provided by the Catalogue of Service Actions from a business point of view. And please note that the JoinUp collection is quite recent, so you may still observe some changes in the coming days/weeks. And on the other hand, we have the GitHub platform. The GitHub platform is actually the platform where we will encourage you to collaborate together. How basically you can find an issue, you can actually report issue comments or concerns about the solutions that are displayed in JoinUp. You will be also able to find all the source code of all the supports that we are providing on GitHub. So that's in a nutshell what are JoinUp and GitHub. Now I'll propose to guide you on the new JoinUp collection. As I told you, you may observe some changes in the coming days, but basically you will find a totally new layout and updated information on the platform. For instance, here on the About tab, you will find what does the Catalogue of Service do and high-level information such as the existence of the action, the stakeholders supported by the action, and of course, our contact details to discuss further possibilities with us. You will also find on the Service Offering tab here the different solutions that basically we are providing, meaning CPSV AP, control vocabularies that we are recommending, the activities such as this webinar on the raising awareness activities, the studies, as my colleagues previously mentioned, the studies and the reports, and of course, technical pilots. For instance, if you want to discover more about the technical pilots that we performed for the Netherlands here, you will find on JoinUp here high level and business information about the needs that we try to fulfill here. And as I previously told you, dedicated relevant information, but more from technical point of view, is available on GitHub, where you will find relevant documentations, file, and source code, how we perform these pilot activities. Please, as a last word, note that on GitHub, different repositories are available, such as the one for the pilot that we conducted, but also some other ones, such as regarding the SDG, the taxonomy, CPSV AP, where you find all the relevant discussions here on the Issue tab. The Issue tabs where you can report any remarks, concerns, or comments. And these comments are aimed to be discussed amongst our community. I will give the floor now to my colleague, Florian Barthélémy. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, if you go directly to the next slide about the governance, this is indeed one of the aspects we touched upon during the interviews, the bilateral discussions we had with some of you. And basically, in the whole governance of CPSV AP and of the modeling activities we have through this action are based on key principles, such as openness and transparency, but also consensus building and quality review. And all those aspects, all those principles are enabled basically through the usage of GitHub that Alexandre just described, where you can simply post your issues or your concerns, or also the different public reviews we go through every time we need to, or we propose to tackle specific issues, etc., etc. If you go to the next slide, those principles are further explained also in one of the base document we use as part of the ISA² program, which you may know is the first document indicated here about the process and methodology for developing semantic agreements. And this basically describes the general process, the key stakeholders, the groups that are active, such as today this working group, but also the projects that will be created based on this methodology. And now there is also, of course, if you go back for a second, also on the previous, yeah, thanks. There's also, of course, an aspect of governance on the control vocabularies or code lists, where basically there are two approaches. When it's a code list or control vocabulary that is maintained by the CPSV AP and the Catalogue of Services Action together with you, then our proposition is to, or the way we did it so far is we use the same governance as CPSV AP. When it's an external control vocabulary, then we use the governance of the external maintainer, such as, for example, with control vocabularies coming from the publications office. Now, an important note is also the fact that CPSV AP only recommends, in its specification, recommends control vocabularies. We don't oblige any public organization to use specific control vocabularies. Now, I think one important question to all of you is, okay, this is what we have today, but are there specific needs that we need to take into consideration when specifying this governance? Such as, is it clear for you how the decision making is made? Yeah, is made, or what is the frequency at which we maintain CPSV AP? So don't hesitate to indicate if you have specific points that you would like to see tackled or at least discussed in the chat. And in the meanwhile, I propose to move on to the next slide, which is directly related, where basically on the frequency of releases and meetings, we would like also to know, okay, now it has been almost a year since the last webinar. Is it too few or too many contact points? So don't hesitate also to comment on this. And you may also be aware of the change in release management policy developed by CEMIC for DCAD AP, which basically also goes further than the previous document I mentioned. And it also describes, for example, the release pace at which the DCAD AP is maintained. And so the question would be like, do you need something similar for CPSV AP where we clearly specify how we tackle the release management, or for you it's clear as it is at the moment? I see in the chat Georgia is saying that for it's important to keep the governance of the control vocabularies as much as possible on the side of the publications office. I agree, Georgia. This is definitely, it's really when there is something where there is no control vocabulary, then CPSV AP sometimes propose something, such as for business and life events. But as soon as there is an official European control vocabulary maintained on the publications office side or any other standard organization, usually we propose directly this one. Yeah, and indeed, we'll come back to the control vocabularies later on, and the fact that based on your needs, we can go to the publications office to ask for creating new ones. And that's where you have an important role, is always to mention on GitHub or by contacting us, what do you need as control vocabulary and where would you need a control vocabulary maintained at EU level. Okay, but so at this stage, if there is no further comment, I propose to move on. I see Frederick. Frederick, can you elaborate a bit? Otherwise, we can continue in the chat. It's not an issue. I propose to start tackling the specific CPSV AP issues with Dimi, and in the meanwhile, we can come back to your question right after, Frederick. Yeah, go ahead, Dimi.
Okay, thanks, Florian. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Dimitri Schepers, also working on the cost action. So as we see that now a number of member states are starting to implement CPSV, are trying to experiment with it, doing some pilots. Of course, it's logical that also some issues starts to come to the surface, which is of course a normal thing that is happening. Which is also great, of course, because you see a lot of adoption is happening. So if at some point you run into an issue or a question, please do not hesitate to reach out to us or to log it as an issue on GitHub. So as introduced by Alexandra already, GitHub is the main collaborative tool that we use for issue logging. It's an open tool, so everyone can see other issues. They can comment on other people's issues and so on. So we really like the transparency of GitHub to do this. What we then do is if we collect these issues and we classify them into certain categories, if they are just easy fixes, minor issues, major issues, or extensions. If you raise an issue, we always advise you to already give a resolution if possible. That helps us, of course, but if not, we come up with our own resolution. And then we would like to discuss this, of course, with you via either GitHub or via contact points such as workshops, webinars, and bilaterals. And then depending on the discussion that we have with you guys, we have either a change request that will has been decided upon by consensus so that we will implement, or we see that there is no reason for a change. So we also do not change anything to the specification, and we always log this on GitHub. So we have a clear, transparent audit trail of all the change requests and the issues. So please, if there are issues that you're currently struggling with, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you're not familiar with GitHub, just send it via mail to us. We will log it on GitHub ourselves. That's not a problem. So these are the list you're currently seeing on the slide is the open issues in GitHub. So we've classified them in the categories we just mentioned. And we propose to go over most of them today. If you could already solve some of those today, that would be, of course, great. But I think the main idea is to introduce them, explain a bit what is the issue, and to get feedback already in the first place. But of course, we invite you to go back to your national experts, to your team members, to, of course, also discuss this nationally. And then, you're, of course, always welcome to give additional feedback on GitHub after the webinar. But then I propose we dive into the first issue. Which is an extension that was raised by a member state. He was asking the question if it would be helpful to have an extension point in the model that would allow a public service to be linked to the policy objective that it is designed to meet. The example he's giving is that they have a national performance framework and he would like, or for example, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, where they are linking it to public services. And now it's an open question to you if you also have this need to be able to link a service to a policy objective. And then also please take into account that we currently have the legal resource class within the specification. So we're really looking for use cases where we have a policy objective that is not defined within a legal resource. So if you have such a use case, please let us know either via the chat or later via GitHub or mail. I propose that we, for now, we use the chat as the main tool to gather feedback because we are quite a lot. We are 88 people. But if needed, you're of course free to take the word to elaborate on your comment. Okay. Feel free, we'll go through the issues. Feel free to comment, to keep commenting on the previous issue. If you're still typing, we'll come back to that. That's not an issue. Then for the rule class, this is coming also from a member state who was asking to add the type property to the rules. So in order to enable the possibility to classify the rules that a public service follows. We are wondering, are you currently using the rule class? Do some of you currently use it within your local implementation? Do you also feel the need to add this property? And if so, do you have an idea of a controlled vocabulary that we can recommend for this property? I see in the comments that Frederick is in favor of linking to the policy objectives. Thanks for the feedback. And Michiela's also mentioned that you can use the hand function of WebEx to ask the floor. Don't hesitate to do that if you have something you want to say. I understand that especially the extension issues are the more, it's a difficult one to answer on the spot. So don't hesitate to come back to us if you want to express us that you have this need as well. Then we can continue. I think this one might be an easier one. So as you know, we currently have the contact point there. So the public service is directly linked to the contact point through which you can reach public organization for that specific public service. Currently, we only have two attributes for that. We have the telephone and the email attributes. A member state proposed, I think it was the Netherlands, to also add a link to the contact page. As you know, of course, especially now, we are more and more digitalizing. So it would make sense to also have an ID to also have a property that just links to the contact page, for example, a web page, through which you can contact the public service. I see already one person in favor for this extension. And she's also proposing to look at vCard for this. Yeah, that's indeed a good idea. We're currently using schema.org for the contact point class, as well as for the telephone and email attributes. They're all taken over from schema.org. But we'll definitely look into the vCard as well. See more people in favor of this, so that's great. And indeed, it's a good question. The linking directly to a bot. I'll have to look into that. I don't think that schema is restricting that, but we'll definitely check that out.
Maybe another question. So I think there's a lot of people already in favor of extending the model with the proposal that has just been stated. So the proposal came also from Georgia on using vCard for that. Does everybody agree on looking at vCard for doing this? So specifically for that, if you can also maybe let us know in the chat or take the floor if you have something to add on this.
Okay, I see a few people agreeing on using vCard.
And indeed, taking the small note that we will look into the fact that that also covers the link to bots and so on.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'll propose we make a proposition using vCard, and then we can compare the pros and cons of the two different options. But we will log this in GitHub so everyone can comment there. I see a question from Volker. So you have public services with a few hundred contact points. I think we don't restrict the number of contact points that you can have for a public service. The cardinality is 0 to infinite. So normally it's not a problem. But we'll definitely double check it.
And if I'm not mistaken, Dimi, there's also a link between contact point and public organization or location. So it's clear that, for instance, indeed, a certain public service that is, let's say, executed on the local level and thus has as many contact points times the local authorities times I don't know the ways of publishing, the ways of that you can contact via email or phone or something, that you can link the certain contact points to certain public organizations for the not the competent authority but the authority that let's say is responsible for executing the public service. If I'm not mistaken, this link is also already in there to make sure that the not limitation of having as much as contact points as you want, that doesn't lead to chaos, and that you can still link it to a public organization.
Volker, do you maybe want to take the word to explain a bit the issue? Because I see
yes, problem is that sometimes with a very distributed maintenance of these contact points, which is really difficult together to focus together on one point. So we have sometimes the workaround to just link to the contact point a page where someone can search for the right contact point, for instance, using location or using your first name or last name, and everything points to a different contact point. So there might be even some algorithm to establish the right contact. So it's sometimes very difficult to add the list of the concrete contact points. It's much more easier to link to a page where you can search for the right contact. So that would be very helpful for us.
Yeah. Okay. No, thanks. Are other member states also experiencing this need? So it's a very interesting issue, and I think we'll definitely look into how we can use the contact point for indeed. If you can use the contact point for those two use cases, I think it's a different use case to really have, let's say, a landing page where you can start looking for different contact points and either directly getting to the contact point. So it's a very interesting use case. Is it something specific only to Germany, or do you also have other member states experiencing this issue? I'm not directly seeing any feedback in the chat. It will definitely log this on GitHub, so we don't forget about it. Thank you. Not familiar with Oasis now. Can you maybe elaborate a bit, Mr. Winstanley? Feel free to take the word, sir. Mr. Winstanley?
Peter.
Ah, Peter. Okay, thanks. Peter, do you want to elaborate a bit on the Oasis X now?
In the meanwhile, Demi, I think one very important point is the one made by Georgia, that we should also not confuse in the discussion the contact point with the channel, where the channel is actually the medium used to access the service or to get information about the service, while the contact point is really the interactions that may happen to receive the service. or to provide a service depending on your role.
Yep. Indeed.
Okay, but I think we can look into the XNL too. I'm also not familiar with it, and we should then see how that relates to a vCard, for instance. So yeah, we can definitely have a look at it.
Yeah, and if you have further comments, please go to GitHub and don't hesitate to register them.
Can you go to the next slide, Alex? Thank you. Indeed, so we just touched upon it, the channel class. We are another SAMIC team is looking indeed at the channel class as well as a means for secure communication and exchange of information. So we're also looking at reusing our channel class as a more, let's say, technical means of reaching a public service. So these discussions are still going on. And on the other hand, in the context of the SDG, we're also looking at subclassing the channel class for the repository of links data model that you might be familiar with, where we would like to include the link class as a subclass of the channel class, also to reach or to consume the public service via. There are no really fixed propositions yet for this, but we are looking into this, and we definitely invite you to follow the latest developments via GitHub. And indeed, Georgia makes a good point. The data service class is also indeed on our radar for that, because there is indeed quite a big overlap between the two. Thank you for noting. Okay. Then we have a few technical issues. They are really non-issues actually. A few mistakes in the turtle file, for example, where we use DCT status, which does not exist, which should be ADMS status. The subclass relationship is missing for a business event and live event, and a DCT relation has multiple ranges in the RDF schema. These are not really semantic issues, just very quick technical fixes that will be made, but just to inform you all that we're doing this as well. This is a more important issue. So as you might know, currently within CPSV AP, we are using DCT agents, while other SAMIC assets are using FOAF agents. So like core person, core public organization, they're all descending from FOAF agents. And as you might know, FOAF has also explicitly expressed the equivalence of FOAF agent to DCT agents. And next to that, we also have the public organization class, of course, within CPSV AP, which is also a subclass of FOAF agents. So therefore, we would like to propose to use FOAF agent within CPSV AP instead of DCT agents, in order to streamline the various SAMIC assets. Indeed, as Georgia Logi is also saying, they are equivalent, so indeed it should not be an issue. It's just a formality, let's say. Are there any counter arguments against making this change? Okay, great. If there's anything, don't hesitate to come back to us. But, we're also working within SAMIC to streamline and to harmonize the core vocabularies. So it's definitely something that's on the roadmap as well. So this would be a good change to harmonize CPSV with the other core vocabularies. So that's great. Okay, next one, Alex. Yeah, so you might be aware that CCCEV is currently undergoing major changes. It's being CSV is being looked at within the context of the SDG for quite a few things. That's why they're looking at publishing a new version of CCCEV. As you might know, CPSV AP is using some classes from CCCEV, more specifically the evidence class and the criterion requirement class. So we're definitely looking into this dependency with the people who are working on the CCCEV new version. But as you know, and as we also stress, CPSV AP is an important use case for CCCEV. So if you are using the CCCEV classes within your national catalog, please let us know your use cases and how exactly you are using it. So we can definitely take this with us to the working group of CCCEV in order to defend the use of CCCEV for CPSV AP. We don't break any current implementations or use cases. So please let us know in the chat if you're currently using CCCEV within the context of CPSV AP. So then we'll definitely reach out to you to make sure this dependency is not taken into account.
Hello?
Okay, but I'm not seeing directly any. Yeah, indeed, Pavlina is again stressing. So if you're using CSV, please let us know, because it's important both from for the CCCEV new version as well as for CPSV AP. So definitely feel free to inform us of your use. Okay, but then we can go to the next one. We have the public service dataset class within CPSV AP. We are proposing to actually reuse DCAT dataset, or DCAT AP dataset, I must say, instead of public service datasets, which is not really defined. It's there more as a placeholder currently. So it would be from an alignment perspective, nicer to include DCAT AP datasets, more harmonization between the different core vocabularies. And of course, there are also a number of attributes and properties from DCAT AP can be reused for the ones we are currently proposing within CPSV AP. So again, an open question: Are you currently using the public service dataset class, or also combining CPSV AP with DCAT AP currently nationally? Please let us know via the chat as well.
Maybe an additional question. I think this has slipped in the spec historically for historical reasons. Do we actually need a class like datasets in the CPSV AP specification? Or is it actually just something that we can keep where it is, meaning a DCAT AP and a dataset can be public service descriptions, but the description of that dataset would be you would be using DCAT for that, while the description of the public service itself would be CPSV AP. So another option could be to split both actually, and to not. Of course, there's not. We talk about linked data, so it's of course not clearly split, but to not have anything about from DCAT in CPSV AP. That could be another option.
Yeah. I see two different people are commenting on two different questions, I think. Yes, on the one hand, indeed, they're saying if we keep data sets, we should indeed align with DCAT AP. So that's one thing. But then indeed, the second question is, should we keep DCAT dataset? So I'll maybe put in the question in the chat as well, so you can answer if you are in favor of keeping the dataset within CPSV AP. So if you could please respond to that in the chat, that would be great. Thank you. The main benefit would be to have a property that links the public service to a data set. Well, if we split the two, you would have the link rather from the data set to the public service, and we lose a bit of the connection from the public service point of view. Seeing a lot of reaction, a bit confusing, but diverging responses.
Dimi, I also have the impression that, okay, on the use of, if we keep it, let's use directly the KDP, but indeed, it's not clear whether people would like to keep datasets within CPSV AP maintained directly within the model or not. So maybe that's something we need to take onwards on GitHub as well.
Yep. Okay. It's of course also possible that we delete it from the specification as such, but write a recommendation on how to use the two in conjunction if you want to use it. There's indeed the fair comment from Georgia Lodi. Of course, you create a dependency within your model, indeed, that you have to keep an eye on in order to keep aligned. Okay. Then I propose for now we align with data.p as much as possible, but keep the issue open on GitHub so people can still comment on it. Okay. Yes, this relates to the previous issue. So currently we have the link from the public service to the public service dataset, but not the other way around. And during the pilot, this need was identified to have it also in Norway. So they use DCT as part for this. But I propose to look into this as we will align with data.p to see which is the best property to use for this, and then come with a proposition based on that. So we can skip this one for now. Yes, this issue. So as you know, currently we have the participation clause within CPSV AP. So it is used to identify the roles that certain agents are playing within the context of a public service. If you look through the, let's say the data flow or the way participation is being defined within SAMIC, you'll see it. CPSV is stating that it is defined within CPOV, so the public organization vocabulary. However, that's no longer the case. I think it used to be in there, but it's no longer in there. So it has been deprecated. So the URI as such does not really resolve anymore. So therefore we propose to add the participation clause to the CPSV vocabulary. we definitely invite you to provide us with your use cases that you currently have for the participation clause. Please let us know if you're using it currently. In order to still have a working URI, we propose to add it to the CPSV vocabulary for now, and then we'll see if in the future we need to take it up within another vocabulary. Is someone currently using the participation clause? Please let us know in the chat.
Dimi.
Oh.
Yes, go ahead, Miguel.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that if somebody among the participants there is something that is not clear, we can better explain the impact and the consequences of applying these changes, or we can also elaborate further on the proposal, on the particular request for change. I understand that maybe sometimes for some people it might not be easy to understand if they were not involved in this request for changes, what we mean by here. So please don't hesitate to also post in the chat box if something is unclear.
No.
Cecile has a comment. Okay, on the ontology or document ontology. Okay.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, Miguel, for clarifying. Indeed, people stating it's an important clause. There's definitely a discussion to use it within the procurement. Where it is also being used. Okay, so I think indeed we can agree that we add it to the CPSV vocabulary in order to have it defined somewhere. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, Alexander, next slide, please. This is an easy issue. Most of the other SEMIC assets have explicitly defined the license they are following in their machine readable format, which is the Creative Commons by 4.0 open license. We currently don't specify this within the CPSV AP RDF schema, so we propose to add it as well in order to be in alignment with the other core vocabularies. Already see 1+1 from Georgia Lodi. Thanks for that. I don't think anyone is in this favor of this change. And yes, Cecile, we'd definitely be interested in understanding how the procurement methodology is using the participation clause. So definitely feel free to provide us with that information.
Or to take the floor if you explain it now. I don't know. Maybe it's indeed a suggestion to provide information or to discuss it bilaterally.
Cecile is handing over to Georgia.
I think it would be very interesting for everyone, and but I think Georgia would be the best to explain how we used it. So.
Yeah, I mean, in the e-procurement, one of the most important things is to define how the different actors participate in a procurement procedure, for example, okay, with different roles, because we have many different roles. And the participation, and I mean, the procurement domain is very connected with the service, public service. Obviously, you realize services using procurement, you know. So that was an important part because the participation is a reification, okay, technically speaking, and that simplified our model a lot. In some cases, in order to deal with the specific scenarios. So I think it's very important to have that that reification. Your suggestion, as far as I understood, is to put it in the CPV, not in the application profile. Is that correct?
Yes, in the vocabulary.
So, yeah, it's like being even more important because it's the base vocabulary on which we construct the application profile. So, yeah, probably it's a nice idea. Yeah, but we can also explain if you want, probably in a separate occasion, technically speaking, how we use it.
Great, thanks for the elaboration. But then indeed we'll definitely set up a different meeting to discuss it in more detail and see how we fit it into the vocabulary of CPSV. Thank you. All right, and then I think we are through the issues. But as I mentioned, as also Miguel said, some issues might be a bit difficult, or you might have not been the right person. You need to check with national experts, for example, to answer it. So don't hesitate, definitely to go back to GitHub to have a second look or to discuss it with your colleagues. And then don't hesitate to reach out to us. It can be via GitHub, but of course, you can also use other sources such as via email, via Florian, via Miguel. Anyway, it's feasible for you. But thanks all for the healthy discussion. I think we've already been able to close some of the issues that we have on GitHub. And for the others, we will come back with more concrete resolutions based on the discussion today. And we'll definitely answer all GitHub issues with what has been said today, so you can comment on that. Thank you all.
Thanks, Demi. And so to continue the discussion on more specifically now on the control vocabularies, the ones that are currently recommended within the CPSV AP specification, but also other ones that are for now put as open in CPSV AP, but where we do have a placeholder for control vocabularies. Then if we move on, basically, in CPSV AP today, it's data type code that is used to indicate that we will use a control vocabulary for some attributes, and there are, as I mentioned, three different types of control vocabularies or recommendations. There are some control vocabularies that are basically from external sources, standards such as our official maintenance maintainer, such as the Publications Office. For other control vocabularies, there is known to our knowledge, known existing ones, and so we proposed, together with the working group, we proposed certain of them as part of the Catalogue of Services Action. And then there are some others, as I just mentioned, for which it's still to be decided. And you have the list on the right side of the slide, for example, for public service type or thematic area, but also Dimi mentioned the CCCV. For criterion requirement type, we don't have a specific control list. The same for evidence type or participation role that we have just tackled as well. So if you go, Alex, to the next slide, those are specific control vocabularies on which we would like to receive your input to know. And so if you go back also to Slido, we would be very interested, it's an open question, to know more about, are there specific properties that you would like to this group to tackle at EU level, and where we could agree on the recommended control vocabulary in the future. So if we switch to Slido again. Yeah, normally you should have access now. Not to this one, Alex. No. Otherwise, it's not an issue. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. I see the question over there. Well, no worries. Just indicate in the chat if there are specific aspects, specific topics, sorry for that, that you would like to see tackled in those discussions. In the meanwhile, I propose to proceed.
But can we display again, Florian, the list of the control vocabularies we are using just to as a source of inspiration or comment
Sure.
for the participants? Otherwise, they will not keep listening.
Yeah, voilà.
Let's give a couple of minutes for people to react to those control vocabularies being used, or those that we have not decided upon, or those that are missing in your view.
Mm-hmm. And in any case, to your knowledge, we'll tackle the two first together right after. Yeah, I see, Georgia, you mentioned for CCCV, for criterion requirement time and evidence type, you would work in collaboration with CCCV. Yes, definitely. And also important work such as within eCertis, where they do have already certain lists maintained. Those are sources we could look at. Of course, before recommending something, we should also look at, okay, is there a need from the within this working group? And if yes, what is also already reused? And this could be also other sources of inspiration to look at, okay, is eCertis and CCCV targeting this? I propose for now to discuss the two first, public service types and public service thematic area. Yeah, if you go, yeah, voilà. Let's start with thematic area, where here you see on the slide three propositions or three control vocabularies that do exist. The first one is teams from within the taxonomy of public services, which is a piece of work we introduced earlier today, which is also available on GitHub, and where we have, based on different works, such as DCAT teams, but also teams used as part of the World Bank, NACE, the Annex 1 of the SDG regulation, etc., etc. So from different sources, we have built generic teams that could be used to categorize public services. The second one is also well known, is Eurovoc, maintained by the Publications Office. And the third one is data team named authority list, also maintained by Publications Office, and which is currently reused by DCAT AP. But of course, which has a purpose which is more tailored to classified datasets. The question I have for you is, do you have any preference or other control vocabularies you use for teams? And do we need a control vocabulary for teams? Teams, I use teams or thematic areas, but yeah. So I see a few comments in the chat. Alexandra says that this should be done bottom up to make sure that the list we come up with is user-centric. I think it's a valid comment, because in the end, who is going to use that? If we want to this control vocabulary to be really reusable by the people at local levels, yeah, of course, it should be intuitive for them and also tailored to their specific needs. So maybe this is something that asks for multiple levels within the list. And don't hesitate if you want to add anything. And Frederic, sorry, Miguel?
No, please, Florian, go ahead.
I just wanted to emphasize that it's really teams, not as team spirit, but more as thematic area.
Things, yeah. We also have relevant input from Marco and Volker on paying attention to the single digital gateway, the annexes, Annex 1 and Annex 2 with the different thematic areas and so on.
Yes, I think it's a very valid comment, and that's why in the first in the exercise we did within the taxonomy of public services, we used the Annex 1 of the SDG as a key source of inspiration. And I agree that we should make sure that there is an exact mapping between the vocabulary built or reused and the Annex 1 with the information or policy areas. I see, Georgia, you also mentioned that in Italy you were looking at Eurovoc and data team. Do you want to elaborate further on this one?
Yeah, there is an attempt now to create like a thematic vocabulary merging both vocabularies, at least for our needs. I can tell you that Eurovoc is quite, it resulted in some cases quite hostile for public servants. Because they have to classify services according to these, and they found some difficulties, at least with the Italian translation, okay, of some terms. We asked for some changes, and actually Eurovoc accepted some of them. So we are trying to create this list, but mapping it absolutely to data theme and Eurovoc in general.
Yeah. And for you, it must be available in different languages to enable all local users to really make use of it. And also it should be user-oriented, as mentioned also by Bernard Dubuisson and earlier on by Alexandros, right? And I see Bernard mentioned that they use parallel lists, one for policy-oriented teams and another one for user-oriented teams. Does it mean that the lists are really parallel, or how do you make use of it?
Hello, you hear me?
Yeah.
There are both different use cases. Sometimes you need policy classification, and for other uses you need user classifications. And it's really two themes that have parallel lives, and sometimes they can overlap. But for example, I don't know, agriculture might overlap. But some other themes won't overlap at all. So we think it's necessary to keep both approaches open for the most use cases, both towards the general public and towards the internal policy-oriented use of the catalog.
Yeah, thanks for that. And so that means basically from all the other comments, we should also maybe define the different use cases. And so here we have two. And from there see, okay, which one should we tackle? Maybe both, but which use cases should we tackle as part of this exercise, and what is existing that fits the use case? Okay, so I propose we'll proceed like this, without forgetting, of course, the SDG discussion, which tackles more to my knowledge, the policy use case you mentioned. Good. I propose to move to the next one, which relates to an issue on GitHub about COFAG and the fact that COFAG, which is a classification initially maintained and published by the created by the OECD and published by the United Nations, but which is not available anymore. And COFAG was used for the functions of governments. And today is, as I mentioned, not available. It is published by the Australian government, and the first level of COFAG is available through the it's made available by the Publications Office. The question is, of course, okay, is there a need for a classification for types of public services? And if yes, which one should we use? Alex, if you go to the next slide, we have also proposed a few ones. Within the exercise about the taxonomy of public services, we have used the term pattern, but it's really the same as type. There is also the activity of the ESD, or it's a local government association combining different countries, which propose also a classification. But recently, I saw also that it's discontinued; it's not maintained anymore. And finally, there is COFAG, where I just mentioned it's at the moment only available for the first level through the Publications Office. So. First question is the same as the previous one. What are the use cases? And from there, we will be able to elaborate and see whether we need to push for COFAG or any other control vocabularies in collaboration with the Publications Office. So please indicate in the chat if you are in favor of one of those, or not in favor at all to have a recommended public service type vocabulary as part of CPSV AP. Yeah. So for you, Georgia, the first level of COFAG seems more like themes, while types or patterns should be more effective. Indeed, that's a valid comment. Any similar observations from the others? And Peter, you mentioned that it's more related to statistical reporting from government. Do you mean that it should not be used for public service types, or more than for internal reporting? Or do you want to elaborate on this? Yeah. Yeah, okay, for internal reporting. So that would be the use case for this one. And I see, Marco, that for you, we should really try to differentiate it from the teams by making it quite basic and yeah. Okay, but so if you have another other points about this, don't hesitate to indicate it in the chat. We'll also put a placeholder on GitHub for this discussion. And Alex, if you want to move on. Yeah. I propose to to move on with the knowledge sharing session for now. Thanks a lot for the comments on the recommended vocabularies. Christina, if
yes, I am here. Yeah.
The floor is yours. Be my guest.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Welcome, everybody. My name is Krystyna Michalik. I'm the leader of the Information Architecture Group in Poland. It means that I'm not only working on vocabularies, as you do this in this team, but I'm trying to set up a plan for us to move to the direction of better services for our citizens. What I'm showing here is just to say what we are doing with vocabularies. I would like to start with the vision. This is our vision of our architecture in future. It has a connection with ERA layers. Of course, there are not all of them. You see here only organization part, which are those orange pieces, and technical part, systems, which are those reddish pieces. We wanted to look at from the like bird fly view, I would say, on the whole architecture of public administration. And we have here, first part is just identity management. The second part is a gate, set of channels for citizens to connect with our services. Then we have part of just transactions for services. Here is a API management part. Then we have base registries, different types of systems in the whole country. And then here, electronic office. What is interesting in our discussion is that part. We decided, following the pattern of your works, we decided we should have administration catalogues. And in Poland, this project started about a year ago, and those catalogues are just those reddish pieces, means that we want to have here some type of system in future. We don't say that there will be so many systems like here, they may be more, maybe less, but this is the idea. Could I have the next slide? This piece in blue area translates to something which is here. This means that we are just building the system called Public Administration Catalog, which is going to have 5 parts: public service vocabulary, administration procedure vocabulary, document template vocabulary, public agency vocabulary, and public administration processes. When we look at it, that part we are talking today is just public service vocabulary, administration procedure vocabulary. May I have next slide? Here I'm telling you what is the goal of the project. We want to implement 5 vocabularies, in fact. Those 2 stands for your vocabulary, and except of this, we want to have, this public organization vocabulary, templates for all our documents, and templates for processes. So we could have place when we have all processes described, and we can use them in the processes engine to just run the services. Can I have next slide? This is catalog. So it's nothing interesting. Sorry, it's very interesting, but it's, you know it. And here we have what we did. First of all, our model, in the course of project, we used your model to start working of our models for our catalogs. And our models are consistent with this vocabulary, but we decided to divide them in two parts. One is e-service, which is shown here, that bigger green block. And we have also administration procedure, which is on the next slide, please. Please, next slide here. This is connected with e-service. This administration procedure is just reflecting the fact that people are going to the office to do something. That something, I was looking for the name of it. I was trying to just use case or matter, but in the end, I decided that I will call it procedure. This is that you want to do in the office, and just dividing this in two parts. What we have the fact that you can do two things using one service. Like, as an example, there is a case like the newborn baby, and you want to register a baby. This is one procedure, and the other procedure is just to apply for the benefit due to this newborn baby. We want to have a service which do it all in one go. So the person comes to the office, register for the requires doing that one and the other procedure at one go. Is why we did it. Yeah. And next slide. These are benefits. Benefits more or less are that we want to citizens not to go a lot of times and to do a lot of apply for a lot of things, but if an event, live event happens, one can just do all stuff connected with it in one go. Yeah, and I think it's the end. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. If I have any question. Hello.
I do have one, Christina. And you use CPSV AP at both levels, within e-services and within the administrative procedure.
Yeah, because I was just checking. I'm not doing it alone. There is a team for it. But before this meeting, I just checked all your classes in your CPSV catalog vocabulary and find all of them, but in different places. So we just look at it from different point of view, and we have the same information.
Yeah,
and also,
sorry.
And also, we were talking a moment ago about those team areas or team. We prepared something like those team areas. Maybe it will be hierarchical, but we have this administration sections in Poland in the law, which are more than 30. And in the beginning, I started to think about it, how to group it together to have, less of them. And now we have about 13 of areas when we just all our work is just connected with one area at least. So we know which systems goes to which area, which data goes where, and so on.
And this enables you, if I'm not mistaken, to kind of reconcile descriptions of public services at national level and actually delivery of such services at local levels.
Yeah, we have also divided those services at central level, local level, and there are also some services defined at central level, but some parts of it must be defined at the local office. So there are 3 types of them.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Would be happy to receive also your data models.
Yeah, I will, because we are just finishing the models now. It's just before the implementation. I'm also interested. You were talking about tools for implementing this vocabularies. So I will talk to people and ask them about, because I have models, but they are in Polish now. Maybe it's not. I just prepared some models for you with translation in English, so you see what's on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a final question, Florian, to Christina, for just giving the floor to the colleagues of Germany. Christina, my understanding is that you have defined now these models, what is very, very impressive, because you have very good, you are modeling very well the different aspects about public services more from the back office and also from the front office perspective, the coupling. This is my understanding.
Yeah, we are in because our project to implement it in the software, and that these catalogs are ready for any service coming to use it. Yeah, so we want to, so we are modeling not only services, but also public organization.
Yes.
And all that stuff there was on the screen in the beginning of my presentation. Yeah. So
yes. So for us, it would be very beneficial, even if the information is in Polish, to get these models, for us to learn also how you are doing this modeling. If you could share this information with us.
Yeah, I will talk to my boss and we'll try to send you.
So thank you very much. I don't know, Florian, if we have anybody else who would like to make a question, or otherwise we go.
I propose, Miguel, we move on with the presentation of from Flipper, and then if there are questions, we go back to them.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks a lot, Christina. And Volker, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity to show our approach. I'm here on behalf of Christoph Harnoth with Thorsten Neuken. My presentation focused on the front office, on the description of the public services, and to start, I would make a very, very quick overview of the structure in Germany. We have national law. The national law covers about 80% of the. I hear an echo. Okay. Covers about 80% of the public services. This national law will be detailed on the federal state level. We have 16 federal states in Germany, and the execution of this public services is on the municipality level, which are about 11,000 municipalities in Germany, which have to analyze the laws from the national and the federal state level and implement them to public services. This gives problems. Next slide, please. Yeah, the consequences. The majority of services is based on national law, but is executed on a municipality level. We estimate that this is about relevant for 80% of the services. So each public service in these 11,000 municipalities is structured a little bit individually and described individually. So we have a very, very heterogeneous setting here. It even is that the same public services are in one federal state on the state level and in another federal state on the municipality level. So you cannot even be sure on which level a public service is. So that's quite difficult. What are the challenges? The challenge that this means very high editorial efforts for the municipalities, because they would have to analyze the laws on national level and on federal level and implement the different services, which means to the heterogeneous execution and the possibility of errors. In conclusion, we established a few years ago the FIM methodology, to cope with these challenges. Next slide, please. Yeah, the basic idea of the FIM methodology is that the information which are needed to implement a public services and which explicitly include public service descriptions are provided by the level of legal entities which are responsible for this public service, and the information which are provided along the equalness of the information. So that means that 80% of the information to a public service, even the information description of the public service, will be provided or is provided by the national level. It will be stored in a database which is federally financed. In this database, these descriptions can be obtained by the federal states. They will be detailed alongside the federal laws, and then these public descriptions will be transferred to the municipality level, and the municipals add basic executive informations like contacts, opening hours, online services, costs if they are not determined by the levels before, and so on. So we have a hierarchical editorial system to ensure, on the one hand side, that public services are described and handled homogeneously throughout Germany, and to reduce the efforts for the municipalities. Okay, next slide, please. Yes. We have, as I mentioned, the FIM methodology. This defines organizational structures. These define processes, of course, of handling these information, and has a data model. This data model we are talking about was the begin of working on this data model was over 10 years ago. We started on the data model and developed this over time. So this data model consists mainly of two parts. The first part is an index of public services. It provides each public service nationwide with a unique ID, a standardized name, and the underlying laws. And this index of public services is used throughout Germany to identify the same public services, even if they are called differently. So you can, it can happen that a public service is called on a local area differently in different parts, maybe in Bavaria or in northern Germany. So we have a ID. This is the index. This is some kind of regulation framework or a classification, you even can say. And the second part is the service library. The service library of the FIM methodology includes the public service description which are provided by the national area. On this service library is used to disseminate the information to the federal state level. To work with this data model, we defined a data exchange standard, and the data exchange standard is the XSUFI standard, which you often refer to. And this XSUFI standard is used in different contexts in the FIM methodology, especially for transferring the public service description from one level to the next. Next slide, please. Yes, we made a very rough analysis of the coverage between the XSUFI or FIM data model and the CPSV AP. And we find it quite similar. As you can see, there may be some errors still in this mapping because we didn't understand all concepts in the CPSV AP, especially around agent participation and criteria. We are not quite sure. We are relatively sure that we are quite similar, but we don't know exactly. But this is a rough glance in how the the coverage is between our data model and the CPSV AP. So conclusion is this largely compatible. We also included the SDG requirements already, so we can use it in a further step, which will I refer to yet now in the following slides. Okay, the main idea is what you call Catalogue of Services. I think it's a Portalverbund online gateway. It's a portal union database. This aim of this data pool is to gather all service descriptions from Germany in one database, from all 11,000 municipalities, from all 16 federal states and the national data descriptions as well. And the main goal why we do this is to ensure that the user can find the searched public service description he's looking for, even if he don't know on which level or with which organization is linked to. This is quite difficult in Germany because you cannot know if a public service is linked to the municipality, if it's linked to the next level, if it is linked to the municipality where you receive the service or where you get the service. So it's quite difficult. So we use this data pool that all websites and all portals can use this data pool for search to provide public service a description, even if they are not in their immediate scope. So that's the basic idea. And this data pool, the PVOG, as you see here, the green box, is also used for providing the information to the Europortal. So if you look at this schematic structure, the municipalities provide their information to the state, federal state level, usually via integration of the same content management systems. The regional state or federal state levels provide this information via XSUFI to the main data pool. The National Editorial Office adds the rights and obligation and the help and problem-solving services. The national portal in Germany accesses this data pool with all the public service descriptions and provides the needed information to the Europortal. This means provides a crawling source, provides the metadata, and so on. So this is our approach. So based on the data model we developed over the last 10 years, data pool is established, and participation in filling and using this data portal is indeed mandatory in Germany. So you cannot back off. Every municipality, every state, and the national level have to provide information to this data pool, and we can use this for getting the SDG implemented. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Volker. I think it was a very interesting presentation. I don't know if there are direct questions from the audience. I saw in the chat a question about where to access XSUFI with a link to Dropbox, but I'm not sure it's the latest version.
The XSUFI is available over the X repository, which is an organization for standardizing data exchange formats in Germany for the public sector. I can post the link here. There you have to look for XSUFI, and then you will find the XSUFI specifications under standards.
Great. And yeah, it's possible, Frederic, that the link from JoinUp is an old one, but so we'll adapt it as well. And Gabriele, I don't know if or others, I don't know if you want to take the floor to ask a question.
Yes, the question is, how is it enforced? Is it enforced by a law like I don't know. Probably it's also enforced by law. There's a e-government law in Germany which forces the use of this portal. Yes, it's an e-government law. Yeah.
And Volker, you put the direct specification of XUFI within the law, or in the technical annex of the law, or it's fine.
No, it's a two-step. In the law is stated that this portal union have to be implemented. This PVOG has to be implemented, and in the PVOG specifications there's XUFI link.
Okay, but so meaning every time you maintain XUFI, you don't have to revise the law.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sounds logical. Thanks a lot for presenting. I see a comment from
maybe one last comment. We expect to be 5 to 11 million public service descriptions in this data pool.
Specifically for your Europe repository, or?
No, for whole Germany, and a part of this will be delivered to Europe because not all public services are relevant in the Europe annex.
Yeah.
It is very impressive indeed. Volker, thank you for this presentation.
You're welcome.
Gabriele, I see you were like, of course, feel free to reach out directly to Volker, but if there is a lot of interest from several member states or public organizations, we could also discuss how to organize a more extended version of this presentation, going further into the details. That's also possible. But yeah, to be followed up, and Volker, don't hesitate if you see quite some questions popping up, don't hesitate to come back to us and we can organize that. Great. I propose to close down. Sorry, we have a slight delay compared to the time foreseen, but I propose to wrap up with the Q&A. So if there is any other questions, feel free to ask now. And Alex, if you go to the next. Yeah, thanks. So let's go back to Slido with 2 questions, and then we'll conclude the webinar for today. The first question is simply, as mentioned earlier, we'll most likely start back some work on or continue the work on the SDG data model for describing public services as part of the single digital gateway. And so the question related to that is, of course, if I wait for it to pop up on the screen. Voilà. Thanks, Alex. So the question is, do you think there is a potential in reusing and tailoring the CPSV AP to the business needs of the single digital gateway? Yeah, presented preliminary during the workshop of February and followed up with some of you in other discussions since then. Yeah, please access again Slido and answer your opinion, basically. I'll give it still 30 seconds. Normally, it's possible to answer or to pick multiple answers. If not, please pick the most relevant ones, the most relevant one. So for now, I see quite some answers. Okay, it should be aligned with CPSV AP, but also the exact position of the SDG data model should be clarified within the other exercises that are ongoing or upcoming. Yeah, that's valid inputs we also received, but we'll definitely bring forward with us in the upcoming discussions with other initiatives at EU level. And quite positively, I'm also impressed. I haven't seen no answers. So yeah, thanks for that. So we'll see how to move forward. And if we go then to the last question for today is, yeah, to conclude, are there really any topics you would like relevant, but you would like to see tackled within CPSV AP webinars or within Catalogue of Services webinars? So including the demo we will be organizing in the coming, normally coming 2 months. So feel free to, as a conclusion, to pick your points over here, and we'll make sure we try to address most of them. And in the meantime, while people are answering this question, Miguel, I don't know if you want to say a word before we also conclude.
I was expecting some results out of this.
We simply need to give people a bit of time also to answer, I think.
Yeah, and actually, if you can contact us anytime, it doesn't have to be right now. To wrap up, just to say a few words, thank you all of you for your participation, for your comments, your input. And we plan to organize a webinar late January, early February, we don't know yet, on supporting tools, indeed. And then we need to address, indeed, these two comments on the SDG data model. They need to make it fully aligned with the CPSV AP, and also to get alignment between different data models that will play a role in the implementation of the technical infrastructure of the SDG. So basically, we are going to have some internal discussions with the colleagues of GROW. And as from January, early February is the same. We will launch some webinars, active discussions on how to further tailor this data model based on the CPSV AP and on the proposal presented on the 21st of February this year in our workshop here in Brussels, of this data model that could be part of the single digital gateway to automate the data exchanges on information about public services. So basically, these are the two main activities that we will be carrying out in the next few months through webinars with all of you, whoever is interested. So maybe we can wrap up here, Florian, the input we got already from some people.
Yes, I see points about multilingualism support, which is something that popped up a few times in the past as well. And yeah, that's definitely something we can follow up on. I see also related to the first point about the demo, the need for other demos about showing the challenges of implementing CPSV AP together with some implementers. This is definitely something we would like to continue doing. I think today the two presentations were also showing to a certain extent this view, but we could go further into the details. Yes, and then upper level ontology across EC and EU member states, as well as restricted dictionaries for attributes. I think those two are also what we try to tackle with the control vocabularies, or maybe if I understand it correctly. And then I see also a comment about, okay, what is the European Commission doing regarding its own services? I think it's a very valid point, which is not directly tackled as part of this action, but probably that's something we could also follow up on, for example, with your Europe repository. But yeah, in general, we need also to be realistic, because it's also a different discussion, but it's directly related. I agree on this. Thank you very much for all the input. If you want to still share some points on this question, feel free, it's still open. But in the meantime, I propose we conclude here for today. Yeah, sorry again for the quarter delay. And thanks a lot for all those who made it until here. And yeah, let's keep in touch in the coming weeks. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.